Imagine a country of over 1 billion people.
Right.
And visualize that entire nation just completely rewiring how it gets its power, and seemingly overnight.
It's a staggering visual, really.
It is. We're talking millions of rooftops, massive desert tracts, thousands of kilometers of coastline, all being reconfigured for solar and wind.
And attempting it at a pace that, honestly, most legacy economies haven't even begun to model.
Exactly. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at a really dense but totally fascinating document today, the Government of India's Renewable Energy Annual Report for 2024 to 2025.
It's quite the read.
Yeah, it's heavy on the spreadsheets.
Yeah.
But our mission here is simple. Whether you're an investor tracking global energy trends, or maybe you're just curious about how massive infrastructure shifts actually happen, we want to help you understand how India just became the fourth largest renewable energy player in the world.
And they didn't just stumble into that ranking. The data in this report is very deliberate.
Right, so let's set the stage with the big headline numbers,
Sure.
just to get a sense of the scale here.
Yeah.
As of December 2024, India hit 209.4 gigawatts of installed renewable capacity.
Which is huge.
It's a nearly 16% jump in just 1 year alone.
And to contextualize that for you, it's not just a sudden spike. The report highlights that their capacity has multiplied 2.74 times over the last decade.
2.74 times.
Yeah. They've climbed from roughly 76 gigawatts back in 2014 to that nearly 210 gigawatt mark today.
That's some serious momentum.
It is. And it puts them fourth globally in total renewable capacity, fourth in wind, and fifth in solar.
So to you, our listener, we promise to skip the dry bureaucratic jargon today. We're just going to extract the actual aha moments from this data.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with their solar story, because that seems to be the main pillar here.
Oh, absolutely. Solar is the anchor.
And the report specifically calls out this one scheme as the star highlight of 2024. The PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana.
Which essentially translates to a massive, heavily subsidized rooftop solar push.
Right. And the goal is wild. They launched this in February 2024, aiming to equip 1 crore, that's 10 million households, with rooftop solar.
And the velocity of the rollout is what's really notable here. In just the first 10 months, they hit 7 lakhs or 700,000 installations.
700,000 roofs in 10 months.
Yeah. The report points out that this is a tenfold increase from their pre-scheme installation levels.
But why this specific approach? Like, why focus so heavily on individual rooftops instead of just building giant solar farms?
Well, they're doing both, but the rooftop piece is about decentralization. It's backed by a massive 75,000, 21 crore rupee outlay.
That's a lot of capital.
It is. And it funds heavy direct subsidies to the consumer. For example, they're offering 30,000 rupees per kilowatt for the first 2 kilowatts installed.
Which makes it actually affordable for a normal family?
Exactly. It's not just a green energy play. The government is framing this as a path to energy self-reliance at the micro level.
Providing basically free or very low-cost electricity for millions of households.
Right. It frees up domestic disposable income and literally turns a passive consumer into an active power producer.
Which is a huge behavioral shift. Oh, and speaking of behavioral shifts, I love this other concept in the report, the model solar village.
That's a fascinating policy experiment.
Yeah, they're basically granting 1 crore rupees to one selected village in every single district across the country, just to champion solar adoption.
It's brilliant grassroots psychology.
Right.
By funding one highly visible, successful prototype in every district, you demystify the technology for all the neighboring communities. It normalizes the tech far better than some top-down federal mandate ever could.
Peer pressure, but for solar panels.
Essentially, yes.
So that's the micro level. But scaling back up, the report mentions a historic milestone they hit recently.
The 100 gigawatt mark.
Yes. By January 31st, 2025, they hit 100 gigawatts of total installed solar capacity.
And that macro achievement is driven by their dual approach. While they're subsidizing rooftops, they're also approving these massive mega parks.
The industrial scale stuff.
Right. 55 approved solar parks, totaling nearly 40,000 megawatts of capacity.
Wow.
Places like the Pavagada Park in Karnataka or the Budla Park in Rajasthan. These are sprawling horizon-to-horizon installations.
But they're also weaving solar into existing infrastructure, like the PM QS scheme, I found this part super interesting.
The agricultural solarization.
Yeah, because the agricultural backbone of India has traditionally relied on millions of these really polluting, expensive diesel water pumps for irrigation.
Which is terrible for emissions and terrible for the farmer's bottom line.
Right, they're totally exposed to diesel price spikes. So the QSM scheme is targeting the replacement of all those diesel pumps with solar-powered ones.
And it goes a step further. For the grid-connected solar pumps, when a farmer isn't actively irrigating their fields, they can feed that excess generated solar power back into the grid.
Turning a farm into a mini power plant.
Exactly. It creates a brand new revenue stream for rural communities.
That is just incredibly smart policy design.
It really hits multiple targets at once.
Okay, so that's the sun. Let's pivot to the wind.
The other half of the equation.
Right. The report puts India's current installed wind capacity at 48.16 gigawatts. But here's where it gets really interesting.
The potential estimates.
Yes, the National Institute of Wind Energy drops this massive stat. They estimate India has a wind power potential of 1,163.85 gigawatts.
There's a crucial caveat to that number.
Right, it's measured at 150 meters above ground level.
Exactly. That height metric is everything. Wind speeds are much stronger and much less turbulent higher ups.
And turbine tech has evolved to actually reach that now.
Yes, taller towers, massive blade sweep areas. It's unlocking previously unviable wind corridors, especially in states like Gujarat and Rajasthan. They hold a massive chunk of this newly accessible potential.
But they aren't just looking at the land anymore, which brings us to the ocean.
The strategic pivot to offshore wind.
Yeah. India has a 7,600-kilometer coastline, and they are finally tapping into it.
It's a very necessary evolution. Offshore wind profiles generally offer much higher capacity factors. The wind blows more consistently out at sea, which is great for stabilizing your baseload power.
But building in the ocean is crazy expensive.
Severely capital intensive.
Right. So to kickstart this, the government approved something called Viability Gap Funding, or VGF.
A crucial catalyst.
They've earmarked 7,453 crores specifically for the first 1,000 megawatts of offshore wind, split between Gujarat and Tamil Nadu.
Because private developers would likely balk at the upfront risk without that federal safety net.
Exactly. And the money isn't just for buying turbines. The report details how they are literally upgrading domestic ports just to handle the logistics.
People overlook this all the time. The supply chain for offshore wind is monstrous.
The blades alone are what, the length of a football field?
Or a commercial airliner, yes. Normal cargo quaysides just don't have the structural integrity or the turning radius to handle them.
So they have to build heavy lift crane infrastructure and expand deep water access.
By funding those port modernizations right now, they're laying the literal foundation for an entirely new domestic industry.
Which they're going to need because their trajectory is aggressive.
A 2030 target.
Yeah, auctioning 37 gigawatts of offshore wind capacity by 2030.
That is a very steep curve. And it brings up a massive engineering headache: grid stability.
Because the wind doesn't always blow.
And the sun doesn't always shine. Having that much intermittent generation on your grid is risky, which is why the report highlights the National Wind-Solar Hybrid policy.
Right, combining them.
Yes. The data shows that their generation profiles are frequently complementary. Wind often picks up in the evening or during monsoon seasons, which is exactly when solar output drops off.
So if you co-locate them at the same grid connection,
You smooth out the overall power delivery curve. It makes the existing transmission lines way more efficient.
makes perfect sense. Okay, so we've covered the solar parks and the ocean turbines. Now let's shift gears to a buzzword that I think confuses a lot of people.
Green hydrogen.
Yes, the fuel of the future. The report dedicates a huge section to this.
Let's quickly define it for clarity. Green hydrogen is produced by using excess renewable energy, like from those wind and solar hybrids we just talked about, to power an electrolyzer.
Which splits water into hydrogen and oxygen.
Right, and because the electricity used to do it was zero emission, the resulting hydrogen is green. It can be burned as fuel or used in chemical processes without emitting carbon.
So the government launched the National Green Hydrogen Mission in January 2023.
With a substantial budget, 19,744 crore rupees.
And the goal is to produce at least 5 million metric tons annually by 2030. But what I love about this report is that it's not just theory.
No, they are pushing hard into commercial deployment.
Yeah, you see these real-world pilot projects targeting what they call the hard-to-abate sectors.
What's fascinating here is that they aren't focusing on passenger cars. Batteries can handle those. They're going after heavy industry.
Right, like maritime shipping. The report mentions the Shipping Corporation of India retrofitting actual commercial vessels to run on green hydrogen.
And the metallurgical pilots. They are trialing injecting green hydrogen directly into blast furnaces at steel plants.
To replace coke and coal.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Global steel production is one of the dirtiest industries on Earth. If they can prove that this works at an industrial scale without ruining the steel's integrity, that disrupts the entire global manufacturing paradigm.
They're also deploying 36 hydrogen-fueled commercial vehicles with refueling stations. And there was this one detail that really stood out: the first ever trial of hydrogen-fueled buses in Leh.
Up in the Himalayas.
Yeah, high altitude, freezing cold.
It's a deliberate stress test. Operating fuel cells in extreme cold and low oxygen is notoriously difficult. If you can run a hydrogen bus reliably in Leh, you can run it almost anywhere.
It's a total flex of the technology.
It is. And it ties directly into their broader geopolitical ambition.
To become a global export hub.
Right. The report mentions them hosting the International Conference on Green Hydrogen and setting up a major pavilion at the World Hydrogen Summit in Rotterdam.
They aren't just trying to adopt the tech, they want to sell it to the world.
The strategy is to scale domestic electrolyzer manufacturing so massively and power it with so much cheap solar that they can undercut the global market price for green hydrogen.
Play for the future market share.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked gigawatts, billions of dollars, high-tech fuels. Let's bring this conversation back down to earth.
The human element.
Yeah. So what does this all actually mean for the absolute margins of the grid, the most remote areas?
It's a vital question. Building transmission lines across flatland is easy.
Right.
But getting power to communities cut off by dense forests or mountain ranges, that's the real test of a national electrification plan.
And the report specifically details the new solar power scheme for tribal and PBTG habitations.
PBTG being particularly vulnerable tribal groups.
Right. The goal is to electrify 1 lakh, that's 100,000 unelectrified households, using independent off-grid solar.
Because dragging the main grid out to them is just fiscally and logistically impossible.
But dropping a solar panel and a battery changes everything for them.
It shifts the baseline for public health, allowing for vaccine refrigeration. It allows kids to study after dark. It's life-changing.
And it's not just the forests, it's the islands, too.
The Lakshadweep project.
Yes. There's this memorable anecdote in the report about Lakshadweep's first on-grid solar plant paired with a battery storage system.
It's a perfect case study for the economics of renewables.
The numbers blew my mind. The report projects this one setup will save 19 million liters of diesel.
19 million liters that you no longer have to put on a ship and freight across the ocean.
And risk spilling into a fragile marine ecosystem.
Right. And beyond the environmental win, the report notes it saves 250 crore rupees.
It just illustrates the immediate economic impact. It's not just about climate goals. It's aggressive fiscal pragmatism.
It pays for itself by displacing expensive legacy logistics.
So we've gone from a single tribal rooftop to gigawatt solar parks. And now, to close things out, the report zooms all the way out to the macro level.
The global grid vision.
Yeah, the Prime Minister's initiative. One sun, one world, one grid. Or OSWAG.
Which is an incredibly ambitious diplomatic and engineering concept.
The premise is beautifully simple, right? The sun never sets.
Right. The fundamental flaw of solar is that the Earth rotates. But it is always daytime somewhere.
So if you physically interconnect the power grids of different nations across time zones,
then when it gets dark in your country and your solar output drops, you just import real-time solar generation from a partner nation to your west where the sun is still shining.
it's wild to think about.
It's a staggering endeavor. They're doing feasibility studies with the International Solar Alliance right now, trying to figure out how to link the grids of South Asia, the Middle East, and eventually Africa.
Truly next-century infrastructure.
Absolutely.
Well, looking at the entirety of this deep dive into India's green transition, the sheer momentum is undeniable.
It really is.
From subsidizing millions of rooftops to aiming for massive offshore wind targets to pioneering green hydrogen and reaching the most remote tribal villages.
It's a highly accelerated,